Hi, today I'd like to talk about brush textures, but before we get into brush textures on the screen here, there's something you've got to do. Brush textures are actually layer or fill patterns as used by Photoshop. So when you first come in there and click on texture, you won't be presented with much at all. So what we have to do is we have to go to Window. You don't have to do this, but I suggest you do. Go to Window, come down to Patterns and click on Patterns. This will present you with a little box which has got the available patterns on your system. Now this will vary according to the release of software you've got. If you're on an older release, you probably have trees, grass, water and a whole lot of other stuff. If you're on one of the more recent releases, you'd be lucky to have trees, grass and water, because they seem to have left everything in legacy. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what we do normally for most of the things. We'll click on the little control over the side there, and we'll come down here and we'll legacy patterns and more. We'll click on that and we'll append all the legacy brushes, or legacy patterns, sorry. That was a bit of a slip there. We'll append all the legacy patterns, and once we've done that, we can then close this off. And I'll close that off. And we'll come into brushes. Now we can come into our brushes. We can set up texture. And we'll find, when we click on this little box up here, this is a little box where you select your texture, we've suddenly got a whole heap of stuff. What I've done here is I've actually opened it up already. I've got the legacy patterns and more. I've come down to legacy patterns. There's a whole lot of stuff in there. Legacy patterns, artist services, and then we've got a whole lot of artist services here we can select from. I'll take the first one just because it's big and bold and beautiful, and I'm just going to do something for demonstration. So I'll select the first one and I click up here and I'll find, well, I'm not getting much, am I? It's just a big black blob. What's happened to the pattern? Well, what we've got to do is, once again, we'll look at this little control here, and we'll come down and we just say, well, use multiply rather than just use the other option there. We click on that and suddenly we have a pattern. Right, the brush has a pattern. This pattern, you can modify the scale, make it very small, make it very big. You can come back to 0 again, make it 100. I'll want it on 100 just because it's easier for me to look at. 100. I'll just type in 100. It's easier to type in sometimes than it is to do fiddling the little slider. You can change the brightness on it. It's on 0 at the moment. That's at 100. We'll come down to make it lighter. And what it does is it makes the overall darkness on the top raised bits lighter. We can make it darker. And that fills in all the gaps. The brightness, actually, when you go 100, it's a little bit confusing, because what it's actually doing is it's increasing the density of the colour. This colour here, so our colour is that at the moment. If I make it red, it goes to like an orangey colour, okay. And I increase the brightness, what will happen is it increases the amount of orange that's coming in there, right? And that tends to hide the pattern. So be aware of that. That's what happens there. Contrast, it makes it like more, as though it's more raised, okay? So you can fiddle with those adjustments to get what you want, on your pattern. That's using multiply, and that's using straightforward. Now, normally it comes in texture each tip is turned off as well. This still works fine. Texture each tip only applies when we need to have height. Now, what the height means is, when you do your pattern, the height is the height at which the paint is applied to the surface. So we have the height that the depth is 100%. It means 100% of the canvas is covered with paint. So you get, because I've got a spatter brush, or not a spatter brush, but a soft brush, we get a little bit of over the edge here, but the rest, because it's 100, you can't see a thing. So if you use height as an option, what you've got to do is you've got to slide this back and watch this bottom bit here. Right, you've got to slide it back until such time as you can see something. Right, when you see something, that's what you're going to see out here. Right, so the shallower it is, the less paint we have on top. Now I can paint over and over and over and over and over, and I can just apply it bit by bit by bit, and eventually I'll fill all the holes in. Now this is great. Well, we've now got a brush. We've got this particular setting on it. If I want to go to another type of brush, just say I want to go to a hard brush, how do I do it and keep all the settings? It's quite simple. Once I've got this set up how I want it to be, I just click on the lock button here. Right, you can lock it. Once it's locked, if I change to any brush at all, I'll take the little dingle bell here because I like it. Click on that, that's got a pattern as well. Locking it locks the pattern in, right? So no matter what you do, no matter what brush you choose, you'll still keep the same pattern, which is important if you try to emulate a bit of artwork or painting on bricks or something similar. It's important that when you apply the pattern, it actually it's the same for different brushes. You might do it with a hard brush or soft brush. You might want to do dingle bells like this, or want stars, smoke. They've got to go in. They've got to show the pattern. If you turn the pattern off, it doesn't look right, does it? If you're trying to emulate a painting, right? How can we put all this into practice? All right, let's have a look at this. Just imagine, for example, because we know that textures are the same as patterns, are the same as textures. Just imagine that I have a painting, which I happen to have, or not a painting, it's a photograph of some tulips. And I want to make these look like they're a painting. What do I do? Well, the simplest thing for me to do is give it a couple of working layers. I like to do that, have them up there so I can just be ready to go. And I'll take this layer here, and there's two ways to get a pattern, if you like, over the top there. One's a fiddly one where you got to go layer and you go layer, and you say I want to put a new layer in, which is a pattern, and it'll come say what pattern you want. And as soon as you say what a pattern, it defaults to the first pattern, which is going to be trees. Then you've got to go through, find your stuff, and finally set it. There's an easy way to do it, and that's the whole the shift key and the backspace key. And it comes up there and says, "Hey, I'm going to fill in here. What pattern do you want? I'm going to put a pattern in." So that's pretty handy. I think I have a pattern. I happen to know this is the right one because I clicked on it before. If I click in here, I get the same options as before. I'll take that one because I've got that constant throughout the whole thing. So I go bang, overlay, whatever. Okay, let's go, and I get that. Right. So what I can do, I come to this layer here, and I say what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this one, and I'm going to make it overlay. Actually, that was an option, wasn't it? It didn't seem to work. Okay, so there's overlay. If I come in closer now, if I come in here, for some reason it's not wanting to do that. Bang, if I come in here, you can see that it's overlaid. It's like it's been done on a piece of canvas, right? Now, I'll come in here with my brush, which I'll have a preset brush as it turns out. I'll select a brush up here. Where's the brush settings? The brushes are there. So I'll get myself a bubble. It's already there, I think. Now, what I'll do with the bubble, I'll make it that colour. Fly, that colour, okay. And I'll come into here, and I've got shape dynamics. I'll turn off shape dynamics if I don't want them. Okay, texture. And because I had the cross set, the texture is the same as it was before. So I can come in here and put a bubble in there, and a bubble in there, and we can't see a blessed thing, can we? And I'm not quite sure why it's not showing. Let's have a look. Multiply it, and okay. Because it's not working because I'm not on a layer. Okay, here we go. And the reason that didn't work is because I was trying to do it on the texture layer, and of course you can't do that. Okay, so here we are. I can put bubbles And if I look at the bubbles getting close, they've got the same texture as the canvas. I'll put one over the top. I keep clicking a few times. There it is. So that's what you can do. You can select a texture for your brushes and have the same colour or the same pattern overlaid on your painting, and suddenly you've got the appearance of working on canvas, working on sand. There's a million different textures you can have a look at, and that's really all I want to say about it. I think I can see uses for it. I can see I can see people coming out with really, really good stuff with this. And I'm going to go now, and we'll see how we go later. Thank you.